It's the Underpowered Hour. On this week's show, the team is back from the Rebelle Rally, and we recap all of the 10 days of action. And now, without further delay, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Barris, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at thebarriscollection.com or follow us on Instagram at thebarriscollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Ike Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today. I'm the map and compass to Steven's satellite navigation. I'm the undeclinated host of podcasting, Ike Goss. I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Ike and Jenna and Liza, fresh from the Rebelle Rally, welcome back to civilization and technology and this wonderful Holiday Inn here in Victorville, California.
Nothing but the best.
I would hesitate to call us fresh.
Well, yeah. I mean, ripe maybe is a better term. But
I showered for at least 20 minutes and I'm still filthy.
It's true. Yeah, the shower in there looks like a little sand. There's a little sand dune in the shower.
That was entirely just from between my toes.
Yeah, it's incredible. There's a small rally course inside of the tub.
What kind of podcast is this anyway?
That's true. Yeah, it's kind of taking.
You might be able to sell that sand online.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're
gonna pay for next year's rally.
That's true. We're gonna put those into little vials. They'll be available on the website.
No, we will not.
Absolutely genuine Rebelle toe sand. So for those interested in that, that's
there's a person out there, but I don't want to know.
Let's be honest, there's more than one.
I don't want to know.
There's a lot more than one. Hey, so coincidentally, total non sequitur, but you know those little silicone things that you put on the bottom of like your, I don't know, like you have like a box or something you want to put on a table. You don't want it to slide around. Like those little silicone things. Would you call those silicone feet? I would call those silicone feet.
Those are called LRF support.
Okay, LRF support.
Little rubber feet.
Yeah, little rubber feet. Well, if you go on to Amazon and you Google silicone feet. Oh my God.
I was wondering how you were segueing.
Oh my God!
I see now.
To come all the way back around.
This is not a direction I'm comfortable taking.
Silicone feet. I'm just saying, knowing how many options there are.
Can we get back to the Rebelle Rally?
Extraordinarily lifelike silicone feet on Amazon.
Can we go back to the Rebelle?
I think the vials of sand would sell very well. Anyways,
Rebelle edition silicone feet.
Silicone feet.
Okay, so
we'll sprinkle some sand on there. Anyways,
you guys have been in the desert for 10 days, pretty much.
I mean, if you could count the practice beforehand, 2 weeks. We left 2 weeks ago.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And you still talk to each other.
Yeah, we still quite like each other, actually.
That's pretty amazing.
We're ready to, after maybe a couple more showers, we could just go back. We can just go right back out.
I don't think there's anybody I could spend 2 weeks in a car with and not at least have one blowout.
Right?
Principally not Ike. Yeah.
No,
hopefully not a blowout.
Plenty of teams have their issues in the car. That is one thing that Jenna and I have never really had, and I would like it to stay that way. We tend to do very well even in our most stressful moments. And there were a lot of stressful moments this year.
So that brings up a good point. You know, not all of the hazards of this event are, part of the course or the difficulty of the terrain or the difficulty of the navigation. Some of them are like interpersonal relationships because it seems like, several teams struggle with that this year.
That's a huge factor in the competition of that chemistry in the car, not only of being respectful of each other and not getting into arguments but also just having good communication and being able to communicate effectively the information that's needed at any moment in time, and
never playing the blame game.
I'm picturing two people in a box and you shake it up for like
for
A week.
12 days.
And pour some sand in it, and then
a lot
shake
of
it up.
sand.
Yeah.
A lot of
It's like one of those
silt.
rock tumblers,
Yeah,
where
you-
you put it in there and the rocks come out all shiny.
You're gonna get grumpy.
Yeah.
You're gonna get grumpy.
Yeah, for sure. I think lots of teams do. And there are some epic stories told in the Rebelle of teams no longer speaking to each other at the end of the event.
Abandoning one or the other teammate in various locations.
To find their own way home, or one teammate paid for the media package and refuses to share the photos with the other person. Like, there's lots of epic stories of, teams really falling apart out there and losing friendships and losing that relationship. And man, that is not ever something I would want to
Now,
do.
the other side of that coin, and this is what you hear most frequently, is that, putting yourselves through this together kind of, forms a bond. And it seems like most of the teammates really genuinely care about each other.
I would say that is much more what you see out there than the alternative. The alternative is fun to talk about because it's like drama. But really, for the most part, it's a big giant love fest out there. Like, everybody is just so grateful to have the teammate that they have.
And all the other teams. Like, everybody's like there's not only the love for each other in the car, but the love for the whole event and everyone that's there, and the staff and the crew, and just everyone that's part of it.
It seems like that extends not only to the teammates but to the other teams. So you guys worked
supportive
with some of the other teams in the practices that you were ultimately competing against in some ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so periodically somebody gets stuck and somebody else pulls them out, and somebody gets a flat tire, and so on and so forth. And it seems like people really pitch in to help each other out. So that's really cool to see. And you saw that in the they have a Team Spirit Award, and that seems like pretty hotly contested. Who can help out the most?
I mean, basically, it's a very intense competition, but it's not a cutthroat competition, if that makes sense. Like, it's very intense. It's very, highly competitive, but not in a way where anybody's, intentionally deceiving or throwing other people under the bus or abandoning them if they need help. Like, certainly if you roll up on a checkpoint or you roll up on another car alongside of the road that, you check in, you say hi, you check in, make sure everything's okay. And then if so, then you roll on your separate ways. If they need help, you have a quick conversation. You're like, I can give you 10 minutes, but then I got a jam. If we can't help pull you out in that 10 minutes, you're going to just have to call recovery, and that's okay. Everybody's very accepting of that.
Help looks a lot of different ways, right? For example, we were having a moment in a wash where we were having to fix something, and, the winning team rolled by us. They're good friends of ours, Nina and Tara Lynn, and, they're on the hunt for the podium. They're trying to get as many points as they can. They can't necessarily stop and help us with our mechanical issue, but their way of helping in that moment was, hey, you look really hot, take your helmet off. You know what? I was really hot in that moment, and I took my helmet off and put my hat on, and I felt a million times better. That was just one way of them helping without interrupting their own rally.
Yeah.
And so it can be that. It can be stopping and literally pulling another team out of the sand. It can be stopping because they need an entire motor replacement before the event starts, and you're there to help them out.
Now,
spoiler alert, that happened.
That's an interesting story for sure.
That is pretty interesting. I think, people hear about the Rebelle Rally and they hear that it's a navigational rally, and it seems to them like maybe that's not as hard on the cars as some other types of events, but then you see, the pits and the mechanics and the blown tires and the, ruined suspensions and broken oil pans and blown motors and all that sort of stuff that goes along with an event in this sort of terrain. And, that happens on some of the older cars that participate, but it was also happening to the brand new cars.
Oh, for sure it was.
It was across the board this year. It was very difficult terrain, very, very tight closing times. It's not a race for speed, but that doesn't mean that you can be very laissez-faire about the whole
leisurely
thing. You can't be like, to make your closing times, to get your checkpoints, you really have to be keeping up a really good pace. Yep. And there were some days this year where that pace was extremely swift, And lots of teams respond to the pressure of a closing checkpoint by going really fast,
Right.
probably too fast for the terrain. And I would say the majority of the mechanical failures that happen on the Rebelle Rally are probably related to the speed outdoing what is appropriate for that particular terrain.
Or
Right.
the capability of the vehicle. You
Yeah,
know,
it could be
like-
both.
Yeah, sure.
And there's a lot of sneaky rocks.
Sneaky rocks and
sneaky
and
rocks.
sneaky ditches. Yeah.
Sneaky, sassy ditches.
Just
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
whoops and ditches, and you're going what seems like a totally normal. You're not hauling ass. You're just going a very comfortable, speed down a power line road. It feels good, and then all of a sudden there's a huge cross ditch of a wash,
Yeah.
that cuts through, and it sneaks up on you. And there might be one dip. It might be 3 big dips in a row, as Stephen learned last night.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that'll happen. Those will sneak up on you.
Yeah, and it's
Sneak up
real
on you.
easy. You were like
Steven, yeah,
slam on the brakes, or depending on the lighting, you don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really flat lighting,
Yeah,
and
you
they
just
really
try to-
sneak up on you.
that brings up a good point. Yeah, we were not able to even get to the celebratory dinner without a
Yeah.
mechanical failure.
true.
Rolled up to base camp last night where our banquet was happening, where the gala was happening,
Yeah.
with a broken trophy truck, and he
Yeah.
pulled it into the area and made the mechanics help him fix it.
Yeah, no, I have to say that is the nice thing about going to an event with a mechanics area is that, you can just park your rally car there and have them help you fix it. It was a quick fix, expert mechanics there, and we were off and rolling shortly after.
I mean, I would
For a-
expect nothing else from you
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
us as an underpowered hour
That's right.
team, but yeah, you really lived up to the name last night.
No, I know it was great, and thanks to Sean
were-
and the team there. Then we went for a little boot around in the Camel Trophy truck. He was thrilled. Hadn't had an opportunity to ever drive a real Camel Trophy truck, and he was all smiles ear to ear. And as ours is a mechanics works vehicle, and that's what its role was in the Camel
Seemed
Trophy.
appropriate.
It did seem appropriate.
Emmy Hall thought it was pretty funny. I did
Yeah.
tell her, and
Yeah.
it sounded par
We
for
did go a
course.
little hard there through the as we were following the Google map, and we were running slightly behind.
Mhm.
And so as soon as we saw the base camp, we thought, well, it's Johnson Valley. There is no prescribed trails there, and so we're like, we'll just go beeline to the base camp
Mhm.
as the crow flies. And
This
Funny
is-
enough,
this-
3 days earlier, the Liza Google Maps made the same mistake,
Ah.
and we also had a similar trajectory to
Yeah.
getting to base camp.
Yeah.
in time.
It was not the faster route.
No, I
No.
did not send us on the faster route to base camp that day either. So,
No,
I guess I have a little bit of sympathy
Ike
for Google.
estimates 3 to 4 feet off the ground at one point.
Well, we didn't do that, luckily. We didn't
Yeah,
break our car.
I think this is a little revisionist history. You're saying we when it's really you.
You.
You did
You were
this.
the idiot.
You did this. You did this. You were going like 30 in a 5 mile an hour zone.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The Camel Trophy truck can handle a
No.
lot of speed overland.
Don't break it.
and,
Just don't break it.
You
You
know, in
found
this case,
you found the
it was-
line.
Yeah.
I found the line.
But this goes back to the rally, so we're running late on closing times,
Yep.
right? You're like,
Yep.
oh my God, we got to get there.
I can
We
see
got to
base
go.
camp.
I got to get there. And we have a speed limit
Yeah.
for each day, and it's different each day. They tell us, at the morning briefing, but it's usually 70 to 75 kilometers an hour on dirt.
Yep.
And as you experienced last night,
Yeah.
that's too fast for a
It's-
lot of those roads.
Yeah,
you
much too
can't
fast.
do that.
Way too fast,
but you
yeah.
might be able to do that for a really nice, smooth section of a power line road or
And
a
then
dirt track,
all
and then
of a
all of a
sudden,
there's
It
a
is-
3-foot ditch, and
Yeah.
it just bam, that's how
Yeah.
most of those cars get damaged. It's
That's
just
right.
those really surprise ditches and rocks that just
that
come from
change-
nowhere.
yeah, that change in the quality of the road or
Mhm.
the type of terrain that you're in, it just suddenly switches.
Yeah, and when you say roads, these aren't really roads. These are trails.
They're trails. They're
And-
trails,
BLM
trails.
trails.
yeah, dirt
fire
roads,
roads.
Fire roads.
power line roads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our good friend Nick Simirsky, of course, the Nick Guyver, the ultimate off-road mechanic, had the hook truck out. We did get an opportunity to take some pictures with the hook truck. and the
we
Camel
have to
Trophy
have him
truck,
back
and-
on the show. Some of his
For
stories
sure.
this year were absolutely epic. For any of our listeners who followed along, Bernard, the most famous series Discovery 2,
Unstoppable.
had,
Unstoppable.
new shocks delivered
Yeah.
overnight.
Undaunted.
And just
Right on.
incredible. The Discovery 5 had, some
man.
all sorts of things.
What an
The
occur-
LR4
she's
had
fantastic.
a high pressure fuel pump
yeah,
replaced in the
that's
middle of the
right.
desert.
That's
Like,
not a fun job.
Nick has some crazy stories, and those were just the Land Rovers.
That's right.
We were
Just the
actually
Land
the smallest portion of repairs on the Rebelle this year.
Which is
A lot of
unheard
the other cars, oil pans, an entire new engine.
Yeah.
There was just a wild amount of trailing arms and
Yeah.
control arms that were bent.
Plenty
didn't
of
hear
broken
about-
axles in Jeeps.
I'm sure.
apparently, Nick was saying.
It was
yeah.
a rough year on cars. Those
Yeah.
guys worked so hard this year, and there was 4.5 inches of silt covering every piece of
I have to
equipment
say,
possible.
watching the reel last night, it was like watching vehicles going through water crossings. Except it was silt.
It was incredible.
It was
It
great.
was so wild.
I was impressed by whoever thought to bring the leaf blower.
Mhm.
Oh,
That's
it's hilarious.
that's not a normal piece of mechanical equipment that you might think to bring. Like, what am I going to need to repair cars?
Yeah.
a
but
leaf blower.
the leaf blower really
they were
made a
blowing
difference.
mechanics themselves. They were so
yeah.
covered.
Yeah, and all the cars are just incredibly dusty and hard to work on because of that. And whoever brought the leaf blower, props to that guy.
Yeah.
Well,
Person,
so
woman,
Good idea.
whatever.
Funny
Yeah.
you should say that, because in true underpowered hour fashion, we did not bring a leaf blower. We brought the most low-tech version of that leaf blower, and that is that Jenna made us go buy a whisk broom before we left Mammoth. And that whisk broom got used by dozens of teams.
Yeah, we just
throughout
at
the
marathon
valley.
camp left it on the rear tire, and everybody just come and grab it, and they'd whisk broom off their car. Or we'd be in the fuel line, and they'd come up to us, and be like, "Can we borrow your whisk broom?"
Now,
They'd be whisking off their cars.
the
yeah.
whisk broom is part of our normal
Mhm, it
kit
is.
of expedition equipment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
And
a key piece.
It is, and it may have come from Linus. Linus is an avid sweeper. I
He's
mean,
yeah,
the
he-
broom master.
It's true.
He's
he is,
a
yeah.
collector of brooms and sweeping equipment.
That makes
and
sense.
The
he,
whisk broom is one of those pro tips
Mm.
that I
It
would
is.
say to any listener. Add one to your kit, because it was absolutely clutch in a number of moments, and especially when we were so far off grid and there was not, any other opportunity to clean those cars. At one point, our tail lights on the back of the car were so full of silt,
Yeah.
you literally could not tell that Jenna had our hazards on, flashing hazards on.
And for those
So-
who aren't familiar with the new Defender, the taillights kind of look like the inside of a Lego brick.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
they
a little
sort
bit.
of,
They
yeah,
can fill up a little bit.
it looks like you should plug something into them. Like
Mhm.
there's another piece that sort of connects, but yeah,
they're
they
very
are.
three-dimensional,
They
and
are,
they
yeah.
just
Have
are
like
the
a little shelf.
opportunity to capture a lot of this silt.
It's
And
amazing.
we're not kidding. The silt this year started on day 0, and it just was in absolutely everything for the rest of the rally.
It's
there was
still
no
there.
getting
Yeah.
Still in
it will
there. Still in
never
there,
leave.
Yeah.
I have silt in my ears. I have silt in my clothing. I have silt
Lungs.
in my
Yeah.
lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure. It
One-
was an epic year for
Well,
sure.
and for those who aren't familiar with the Johnson Valley, sort of Nevada silt, it's like talcum powder. Like it's hard to describe it until you've sort of been in it, but it's a weird substance.
It was honestly the silt that you guys saw yesterday in Johnson Valley was nothing compared to the silt
Yeah.
up in Nevada.
Nevada,
When
the
we were
Nevada
up on the
silt.
Fellini Ranch the first few days
Yeah.
in Nevada, that silt,
That's like baby
yes,
powder.
it was like baby powder,
Yeah.
but brown baby powder
Or
that
like like powdered sugar. Like
yeah,
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 yeah, exactly.
My,
exactly.
yeah.
My Latin teacher in high school was in the South African Army, and he described that substance as bull dust.
Mm.
And he would call it bull dust, and he would say that it would disable like an entire line of military vehicles. Like
Wow.
I'd believe it.
they would get stuck in it. It would ruin the air cleaners.
Yeah.
It would clog up everything, and the people couldn't see who were
Yeah.
driving in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, problem actually.
Like the visit, and especially on a vehicle that's 50, 60 years old, when he was driving them. Yeah, it can completely disable an entire line of military
Oh,
vehicles.
100% it can. I could see that for sure.
We had a big trouble with it on the enduros. So we had timed enduros in Nevada, like for the first 3 days, and they had 1 minute start intervals, and so we're only 1 minute behind the car in front of us. And I mean, it was complete whiteout on some of the turns and whatnot on those
Yeah.
enduros.
Sometimes
was
it would be
tricky.
totally fine, and then our road would bend, and now we would be the wind wasn't clearing the dust off the trail. It was just blowing it right at us. And yeah, the couple of moments that were like,
and we're supposed to be at a prescribed speed, and we're like, I don't know, I gotta, and then they would pass, then we'd haul ass to catch back up on our time interval. It was crazy.
It was a pretty wild and crazy thing. And we talked to the rec officer who, pre-runs all of those enduros for us and make sure that our road books make sense with what is actually existing in the world. And, when she pre-runs them, she doesn't have a line of cars in front of her pre-running it with her. And they don't know what the wind conditions are going to be like. And so, what might have been safe yesterday suddenly wasn't safe the next morning. Not that it wasn't safe. The rally is actually incredibly safe as long as you respond to the conditions as they change. If you fly through that enduro and never lessen your speed when the condition requires you to, then it's not safe. But you have to respond appropriately. And so there were a lot of responding moments on those enduros.
For sure. Also, one final thing about the whisk broom and the Silt. So one of the great uses of the whisk broom was when we needed to air up and air down, like all that silt was caked all over the tire valve and, stem and the little cover and all inside the pockets of the wheel. So we could whisk broom that off so that we weren't just getting silt all up in our valve stem.
I mean, we still got silt all up in our everything, but at least we could keep the area around the valve stem relatively.
Before we opened it, before we exposed it back to the world, we could de-dust around it.
This event is one of those instances, too, where you have to weigh the pros and cons of, is it worth blowing out my air filter, or am I just going to introduce more silt into the motorbike, taking it off? And it was just like, nope, just leave everything sealed up. It's only a week. We'll clean it when we get back.
Oh my God. Inside the gas filler flap,
there's a mini sand dune
caked in there. Yeah. I was so paranoid about getting.
So tell us a little bit about some of your favorite parts of this particular rally. Like what stood out? What was better than last year? What was better than previous years?
That's a great question. We went to an area that they haven't been to for years. So it was new to Jenna and I. We were up in the Twin Springs area of Nevada, which is east of Tonopah. And I thought the first few days of the course from Twin Springs all the way down to Dumont, I thought was just breathtakingly beautiful. The first few days of the rally, we did not see a single other vehicle that wasn't associated with the rally for like 3 days. It was just this massive expanse, so much space, so many incredible backcountry trails on these ranching lands that I just thought the first few days of the course were just, to me, breathtakingly beautiful.
Yeah, they were really cool.
I think I've talked to this with some of our listeners, both overseas and on the East Coast. Some folks don't realize that here in the Western United States, we just have vast expanses of public lands that you can drive on for days and not see anyone. Like, that's a foreign concept to a lot of folks because back in the Eastern United States, not all, but most of the lands are privately owned. And so putting together something like this is difficult. And I was speaking with someone there like, why don't we have anything like this on the East Coast? You can't.
Not like this. Not like this. And not be that remote and that off the grid and feel like you're the only humans that exist, you know? We went through Lunar Crater where they trained the Apollo astronauts for landing on the moon.
Is that cool. Huge, like, almost volcano-looking structure that was in some of the photos?
That was on Prologue Day.
Yeah, that looked really cool.
And that whole area was, this volcanic rock, and it looked like we were on another planet. And there was some just absolutely beautiful areas up there, and big shout out to the Fellini family who own the land up there and have owned it for generations and generations. Such a neat story.
Yeah. We had one of our checkpoints was out at the original homestead on their property from the 1850s.
Like great grandmother, had.
And it was this really cool little stone cabin and little wooden, barns and outbuildings that were clearly, on the verge of being ruins, but still very, visible and
And
present.
fun fact, there
Yeah.
was a checkpoint
Right there.
down in the
Yeah.
little pocket, and we got.
Oh, nice.
What was your favorite part of the rally? Place that we went.
I really enjoyed Dumont. Dumont Dunes, where are they? They're sort of
For
near
those who
Death
don't
Valley.
know, yeah, they're sort of pocketed
Mhm.
between the southern edge of Death Valley and the top of the Mojave Preserve, north of Baker, California. And they are these wicked, gnarly.
It's just this. It's a small dune complex compared to Glamis. Like the overall footprint of this dune area is much smaller, but there's still some really big dunes in there, and
they're
it's
beautiful.
and they're beautiful. But it also, I don't know, because it's smaller, it actually feels a lot more approachable. Like you can get
We
through them.
navigated them.
Well, and you can
Yeah.
poke your way through them, and you're not just in a never-ending sea of huge dunes. It's like, okay, we got through those, and
Yep.
now we're back out on the other side, and then we can zig and zag back through them.
It also looked like there was some big ridges of sand.
there's some cool
Yeah,
ridges
yeah.
through there.
that
There
kinda,
There's like an avenue in between these two big dune mountains on either side, and there's like a flat avenue that you can use to traverse right through the middle of the dune complex.
Yeah.
And then, kind of go north or south based on that. And it was so cool.
And
it
the
was just
temperature
so
was
cool.
really actually pretty pleasant. Like
Yeah.
it was hot, but not like crazy hot like it's been in past years down in
Last
Glamis.
year was a year of temperature extremes. It was 8 degrees Fahrenheit at its coldest. It was 111 at its hottest. It was a really tough year. This year, we packed so many cold weather clothes that we didn't have to touch. It was a really mild, temperate year. We didn't have extreme temperature swings. It was really quite lovely.
Yeah.
Dumont was beautiful.
Dumont was beautiful.
But you did have a big wind event,
Oh
right?
my
A couple
Lord.
of big wind events. Yeah.
We did. We had big wind in a couple of places. The biggest was our last night was a marathon camp night in Glamis. And for anybody who knows the Imperial Sand Dunes, we were over on the Wash side. We were in Wash 14, and all the competitors were camping together. And we tried to strategically set our cars up with our tents nearby so that, ATVs and side-by-sides running through the dunes in the middle of the night weren't going to run you over. So we were all very close together. All the teams were clustered together. And it was an epic windstorm that ran through at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And wow. Wow. It was wild. It destroyed Base Camp 3, which was about 300 kilometers away. They also had wind, and it nearly destroyed Base Camp 3, and they had to rebuild it before we got there.
They
on
used
day 7.
the leaf blower for that.
They did.
said
They closed it up. They kicked everybody out, and then leaf blowed all the sand off of the chairs and tables.
Well, I mean,
and
they said there were like 3 inches of sand on the floor inside that
Oh
tent.
my
so
God.
they leaf blew it all out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
so
pretty
a literal sandstorm.
literal
little
sandstorm.
Not the Darude techno song.
Correct.
No, like the
correct.
one from the Mummy where there's the face
Oh, yeah,
and the wall.
Yeah,
Yes.
like
it
just
was
a
like
hand
that.
of
Yeah, it was like-
I woke up many times through that night thinking to myself, oh God, I hope the wind goes away before we have to pack up our tents.
Yeah.
The thought of trying to break down our pop-up tents in that kind of
so
wind.
hard they just like sailed.
I don't know if we
They
would have
just
been able
smash
to
them in
do
the car and go. Yeah.
So luckily, we were really lucky. We had to be up by about 5:30.
That was a nice sleep
It
in
was a
morning.
nice sleep in. We normally were up by 4:20, 4:30. We had to be up by about 5:30, and when we woke up, it was very still,
Yeah.
very quiet. The sandstorm had passed, and then 2 hours after we, we're out checkpoint hunting, then the wind kicked up again, and it was
It was
whiteout
crazy.
conditions.
Even on the
again.
pavement, we were hit. It was like we had
Yeah.
to slow down a bunch because it would be just a huge.
I
gust of
love
sand.
Glamis, but I was happy to get the
Mhm.
heck out of there when that wind started kicking up again, because that is not a lot of fun.
Mm-mm. Ugh,
It's the first year we had to use our goggles because of the wind.
it was so hard to put my contacts in that morning. Like
know how
inside the
you did
bottom
it.
of my contact case, there was just like like sand that had fallen off of the lenses in the case at night, and then in the morning, like you're out camping, like every wet wipe leaves fuzzies on your fingers, and you can't get the sand off of your hands.
Oh,
Like there
yeah.
was just no way. I had to like do it like 7 times before I got them in without sand in them.
Yeah.
It's great.
So what are some moments where you saw other competitors either succeeding or struggling that stood out to you this year?
Oh, there's always incredible moments on the Rebelle where you see competitors helping each other out, where you see rookies who have been really, really struggling at the beginning of the week, bond with other teams and through the help of other teams kind of find their way through the rally.
Buddying up, like having that sort of a confidence buddy, I like to call it.
Yeah, that camaraderie that sometimes 4 brains are better than 2, and sometimes just bouncing an idea off another team really helps them. So you see that a lot on the rally, and we saw that with a lot of teams that maybe really struggled in the first couple of days and then came out and just found their mojo, found their how they were going to get through the rest of the week together, and that is always a win and wonderful to see.
One big challenge that was a crazy way for the rally to actually end was one of the rookie teams. They went up to their very last checkpoint, and it was across the dry lake bed from final base camp, from the finishing line. And so there was this ridge on the north side of the lake, south side of the lake. I should know. South side of the lake. And so they went up and they got that checkpoint, and they were one of the first ones to, I think they had an early start, so they were going to be one of the first ones to finish that day. And they got up on that ridge, and instead of going back on the uphill, upper side of the ridge where it's easier terrain, they decided to come down the really steep face of that complex.
It looks very steep.
It was extremely
steep.
And they got basically a tiny way the bit down, and they got all sideways on the side slope. They said it was 52 degrees or something. They were really rollover, scary.
Yeah.
And
seatbelts locked, can't get out of the vehicle.
And for the next 2.5 hours, they just sat up there watching every other team roll into the finish line,
and we could see them.
So everyone's watching this, unfold. And so that was, really dramatic and stressful. And all the recovery crews went up there. Nick had the tow truck up there. They winched him back up the hill.
Oh, it was, and every team is crossing the finish line and watching our, fellow team competitor struggling through that moment. And this was a team, they came in as rookies so strong. They are so well trained.
And they're so sweet. They're
so
very
lovely.
Well loved by all the other competitors.
We practiced with them back in September. They're a really amazing couple of women. I really, really have undying respect for that
They were
team.
describing that scenario at the dinner when they were up on stage. It was very emotional. Mm-hmm. And they were showing the video on the projector, or maybe I saw it online, but maybe it was on Nick's Instagram. But, Nick's got basically a tow boom on the back of his Dodge tow truck. And it was fully extended out over this ravine, or slopes, very steep slope. And he's basically craning this Jeep back up the slope.
Yeah.
And
extreme dangerous situation.
It was, and this was a wonderful team with a lot of skill that was,
just got wrong trail, wrong turn, wrong time.
Just got themselves into a bit of a pickle. And Katie Kunkel, the host one of the hosts of the live show, gave them an award on Friday night that she dubbed the Falling Under the Chairlift Award because everybody was watching them, kind of make this error in judgment and paying the consequence of it by, they ended up being the last team to come in. And when they did come in, every team went out to the finish line to cheer them over the finish line. Every competitor was out there to cheer them on as they came in. It was super emotional. They were, they were a mess. I mean, obviously they had just gone through a
roller coaster,
a very near-death experience, I think, or pretty catastrophic consequences were, kind of that they were faced with for hours up on that mountain.
And it got dark. I mean, it was super dark by the time they came in.
You could just see their headlights were just sideways.
Yeah.
It was a scary moment for them and for all of us because you don't want to see any competitor get into that kind of situation.
Yeah, potentially hurt or worse.
Yeah,
exactly.
and that was a steep hill. Yeah, that would have been rolling for a while to get to the bottom.
That could have been really catastrophic. So,
but I don't think they actually even damaged the car. And
I don't think
they were not injured. They were just emotionally, a bit traumatized by the whole situation. But I think in the end,
in the end, I think, true rally spirit
Mhm.
came out, and all these women were just so relieved.
Yeah, and they still won second place in Rookies of the Year.
They
did.
They did.
They were great.
Yeah.
And I think that's a story that, it's probably too soon to laugh about it, but they'll eventually, it's like a war story. It's like a good,
they'll get there.
I hope so.
yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
They're lovely humans.
And they'll be back for sure
I'm proud
next
of
year.
them regardless.
Yeah.
So you guys, you had a few problems with the Defender, and
not with the car. The
yeah.
car was fine. We had some terrain kick our ass a little bit. We had a couple of tire issues, a little bit of user error, a little bit of just, the terrain was an ass kicker this year.
The peculiarly pointy rocks.
That's right. That's
they were hard on tires.
They were.
And
so
not
hard
just
on
not
tires.
just us.
Yeah,
so
everybody.
many
many
tires.
teams.
But that
So
night
many
after the
teams.
Sperry wash, which I liked, it's Sperry, but I like to call it Sperry, like SPAR. Why? Because
Every
so
team.
many
Oh.
teams got tire damage
All
in that wash.
all the tire companies are
Yeah.
salivating. They're like, oh, the money rolling
Send them
in.
in down Sperry wash. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a rough day for tires. And we went to the mechanics bay that night too. We used both of our spares, and so we went to go try to doctor them up so that we could reuse them,
If we
reuse the
needed to.
damaged ones if we needed to for the rest of the rally. So we were plugging and patching, and they just had a mountain of tires that they were patching and plugging
Literally.
for people that night. It was crazy.
Jenna,
just a stack of them.
I have to tell people, Jenna glued her ass
I
to
did.
the tire
I did.
while patching it. It was really amazing.
It was
her
one of
pants
my
will
shining
never
moments.
be the same.
Mhm.
But
Wow.
no,
Not something you think about hearing,
oh, it was great. It
glued
was so
myself
great.
to a tire.
No, you have to find the moments of lightness during those stressful times.
To be fair, that is probably the best way to ensure that glue tread patch has maximum adhesion is
Oh,
by
because it's got to have some texture, right?
well, by sitting on it, you've got a lot of conforming.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
really helping to
Gotta
press
be-
it evenly.
you
on
got to
the
be
tire
careful that you
surface.
don't seal more than one hole, though.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of tires, though, we do have to send a shout out to Pirelli, who was our sponsor this year,
Yeah.
who not only gave us the tires, they also contributed financially to our registration fees. And they were out there most of the rally with us at base camp, checking in on the
Yeah.
Pirelli teams,
Yeah.
bringing in extra tires for some of the other teams.
Yeah.
But man, I gotta say, Pirelli, they believe in this event. They believe in supporting women in motorsport, and they don't just talk the talk. They were there every day of that rally supporting us and being out there.
Well,
And,
and
it
seemed
a
like
huge
the
congratulations needs to go out to you guys for finishing third in the Pirelli Challenge. So much so that you are now proud owners of the official Pirelli Winners Circle hats.
They're so cool.
the
They're
real
amazing.
Pirelli P0 winners hats, just like Lewis Hamilton has.
Yeah.
Like
Only
9,000
ours, instead of having gold leaves on the brim, are Rebelle blue.
It's amazing.
It's
They are so
incredible.
Yeah, they were made at the same place. They make those
Cool. Yeah,
official F1
in
hats.
Yes.
Italy. Yeah,
Like they could have been sitting on the same workbench at the same time.
right next to
you
a
know?
Lewis Hamilton or
Uh-huh.
a.
Y'all, we could have come in dead last in the rally, and having one of those hats would have
It's
made
like
my whole day.
So
yesterday.
cool.
It
They're
was.
so cool.
They're really neat. I will cherish that.
We'll make sure we
forever.
up on the Underpowered Instagram so you can check those out. But it is, yeah, congratulations on that. That's fantastic. It's a huge achievement and definitely a souvenir that not very many people. There's like 12 of those hats in existence.
There are 9 or
That's
no
like
6. There's
six?
6
There's
currently.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Do you guys have other sponsors that you want to shout out
We
to?
had amazing sponsors this year. As always, Full Sail University came to the table and backed us. They've been our sponsors since day one. We love them. We love working with their students on all the media pieces that we've created around this event for 3 years. So huge, huge thank you to them for being a returning sponsor year after year when we were this scrappy little team that nobody knew to, now we've done this a few times and we have a lot of friends on this rally, and it's always great to have the Full Sail crest on our vests and our car. We were also sponsored this year by Cherry Los Angeles, who make really incredible clothing based in Los Angeles. Everything is made in LA. Their Americana and motorsport inspired clothing was the hit of the rally. Everybody loved our Sherpa jackets that they gave us. They designed the car, and they were huge supporters of ours, and really looking forward to continuing to work with them in the future. They were amazing.
One of our other competitors had her mom's
maiden name is Cherry,
and she was so excited.
Wow.
She was like, "Oh my god, I need to buy this for my mom."
She's on the website when we got our phones back, ordering jackets and jean jackets with the Cherry logo on it.
Well, there's not too many made in America clothing brands anymore, so that is.
And Cherry is literally made in Los Angeles.
It's amazing. They're wonderful people that really just were our best cheerleaders through this whole
100%.
thing, and it was thrilling to get to represent them. Alegria was a very last minute add to our sponsorship, and very excited to work with them. They sent us a whole bunch of shoes, and we're really gun shy about trying new things untested going into the rally. They sent us a couple of pairs of runners and boots, and we wore those boots every single day of the rally.
They were great.
They were very durable, extremely comfortable.
Easy to pop on and off to dump the sand out.
Super impressed. And so big shout out to them. Thank you for the extremely comfortable shoes and the financial support. We
fellow
really appreciated that.
Land Rover owners.
Yeah. The head of that company is one of the guys that I did the G4 recreation with last year. He owns a G4 Range Rover, an L322. Super, super nice guy. Loved your shoes, Luke. Can't wait to wear them more. And you'll have to send us new pairs next year if we destroy these ones, because we are not easy on shoes.
They're not
this
fresh
rally.
anymore, that's for sure.
Oh, no.
They still look good, though, to be fair. They look great.
Yeah. And they sent us some cherry red sneakers
Those
to
look
match
fantastic.
our jackets and
look
our
so
cars.
good.
So that was great. And let's see, who else am I missing? Of course, we have to thank JLR North America for providing us with that Defender 130. I mean, that car is spectacular. It was our home for 14 days.
It'll never be the same.
We practically lived in that car. We're really sorry about the silt. But that car is amazing. And we are so brand loyal. We can't imagine running the Rebelle in anything but a Land Rover, specifically Defender. And so huge, huge shout out to them again for just, coming to the table with that incredible car.
And that car will be on display at Destination Defender, if I'm not correct?
That is our we've been off the grid for 10 days, so if that has changed, we don't know.
It's going to be there.
That was the plan.
It will be at Destination Defender. That is November 22nd through the 24th.
That's right.
It will be in Malibu this year. And because of our fantastic relationship with our good friends at His Majesty's Jaguar Land Rover, they are offering every listener to the Underpowered Hour a code to be able to attend Destination Defender.
Free of charge.
Free of charge.
Wow.
Except for camping. But you can go to the event, you can see all the vehicles, you can do all the things.
You can say hi to the rally team. Both our team and the other JLR team will be there.
What is that code,
Come hang
Stephen?
out. That code. So grab a piece of paper, grab a friend's arm, grab a tattoo gun, whatever.
Come on, they've already loaded the website in the time it's taken you.
DLA-LRCLUB.
And can you say that again phonetically?
It is DDLA-LRCLUB or DILLA-LUR Club.
So, Destination Defender.
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. LR Club. Yeah.
All right. Well, we hope to see you all there.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for the interview. It was really cool to follow your rally. I'm so glad you had a good rally, and looking forward to seeing you next year. And we'll see you in a few short weeks at Destination Defender.
It's going to be amazing.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
See you on the trail.
The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Barris, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Barris. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.